All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, wherever in the world it is that you are. Welcome once more to another live stream of Alexandra Mayers Live, page by page, reading and commentary of the modern English version of the Bible. Oh, I had a good day today. There's something I'm witnessing that's taking place in real life, but is being streamed online that really has me triggered when it comes to a level of stalking, intimidation, and harassment that someone that I'm aware of is going through. Actual multiple people I'm aware of are going through. And it's just interesting to me that in the year 2026, these kinds of things are still at play. It really is. I think my subconscious has been trying to work through it, and I've had some nightmares the past couple of days in regards to it. And the situation itself is making me reevaluate certain moves that I've made in the past, also choices I've made in the present. And it's also leading me to take a real good look at certain people that I've allowed to be around me. I'm taking a good look at their level of concern when it comes to the situation that I've shared with them, that I'm briefly touching on with many of you today. And I'm the kind of person who really does pay attention to their dreams and how the symbology in the dreams translates to things that I'm going through in my life. So I'm going to work through all of it in my waking state musically. But what I'm witnessing in regards to a particular person who's under attack right now is that, like myself, this particular person has been very generous to others, but then when he sees the reality of how others have not appreciated him, he's been lied about because he's made it known, hey, I don't like how I'm being treated. I completely get that. Completely relate, because there are so many people in this world who have this incredibly high level of unjust entitlement. And then they get upset when they're called out about it, when they know they shouldn't have that high level of entitlement, you know? Part of why nowadays I'm able to relinquish feeling certain ways is because I'm able to understand that certain things are indeed out of my control. I cannot control how anyone else feels at all. And I do completely understand that we all meet our maker at some point. And whenever that time comes, there's no getting around it. There's no way to lie to our maker about our actions and our choices in life. And that actually gives me a lot of comfort. Just knowing that God sees everything. God knows what's in our head. So let's get into the second book of Kings, chapter 4. Should be interesting. It's a bit of a long chapter. It's divided into 4 sections. Let me tell you what the sections are. The widow's olive oil. Elisha raises the Shunammite's son. What else? Elisha purifies the deadly stew. and Elisha feeds 100 men. So this should be interesting. Here we go. The widow's olive oil. Now one of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord, but a creditor has come to take my 2 sons as slaves." Oh, that's horrible. It's interesting to me how some people really do see others' death as opportunity. You got to be pretty sick to feel that way. Elisha said to her, "What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house?" She said, "Your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil." Then he said, "Go ask for vessels from all your neighbors, empty vessels, and not just a few. Then go in, shut the door behind you and your sons, and pour the oil into all these vessels. When each is full, set it aside." So she left him and shut the door behind her and her sons, and they kept bringing vessels to her, and she kept pouring. When the vessels were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another vessel." But he said to her, "There is not another vessel," and the oil ceased. Then she went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your children can live on the rest." Wow. That's amazing to me how in the Bible there's many instances of what seems to be some sort of molecular replication of various foods or substances in order to create much from nothing. I wonder if one day we'll have that technology available to us as people in this world. I believe we will. I think that anything that's mentioned in the Bible, in time, we receive as people, but it's labeled by science as technology. But that's just my opinion. Okay, next section. Elisha raises the Shunammite's son. One day Elisha passed through Shunem, and a noble woman was there who urged him to eat a meal. So whenever he passed through, he stopped there to eat a meal. And she said to her husband, "Behold, I know that he is a holy man of God, regularly passing through near us. Let us make a little walled upper room and put for him there a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp. So when he comes to us, he can stay there." One day he came by there, and he turned aside to the upper room and lay down. He said to the Gehazi, his servant, "Call this Shunammite woman." So he called her, and she stood before him. He said to him, "Say to her, 'Look, you have gone to all this trouble for us. What may be done for you? Would you have a word spoken on your behalf to the king or to the captain of the army?" And she answered, "I am living among my people." He said, "What may be done for her?" And Gehazi said, "Actually, she has no son, and her husband is old." He said to her, "Call her." When he had called her, she stood in the entrance. He said, "At this season, when it is time, you will embrace a son." And she said, "No, my lord, man of God, do not lie to your servant." But the woman conceived and bore a son at that season, at the time that Elisha had told her. That's nice. When the child was older, he went out one day to his father with the reapers. He said to his father, "My head, my head." And he said to his servant, "Carry him to his mother." When he had taken him and brought him to his mother, the boy sat on her knees until noon and died. Oh no. She went up and laid him down on the bed of the man of God, shut the door on him, and went out. Then she called to her husband, "Send me one of the servants and one of the donkeys, so that I may run to the man of God and return." He said, "Why are you going to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath." She said, "It will be all right." Then she saddled the donkey and said to her servant, "Lead on, and do not hold back for me unless I tell you." So she went and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. And when the man of God saw her far off, he said to Gehazi, his servant, "Look over there. There is the Shunammite woman. Now run to meet her and say to her, 'Are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is the child all right?'" And she said, "It is all right." When she came to the man of God at the mountain, she grabbed his feet. Gehazi approached to push her away, but the man of God said, "Let her alone, for she is in bitter distress, and the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me." Then she said, "Did I ask for a son from my Lord? Did I not say, 'Do not give me false hope'?" This is interesting because she didn't really ask for a son. He assumed that she wanted a son, and he gave her happiness, which was then taken from her, which would be indeed very heartbreaking. So that's what she's confronting Elisha about right here. Then he said to Gehazi, "Prepare yourself, take my staff in your hand, and go. If you find anyone, do not greet him, and if anyone greets you, do not answer him, and lay my staff on the face of the boy." Then the boy's mother said, "As the Lord lives, and as you live, I will not leave without you." And he got up and followed her. Gehazi passed through ahead of them and laid the staff on the face of the boy, but there was no sound or response. So he returned to meet him and told him, "The boy is not awake." When Elisha came into the house, he saw that the boy was dead, lying on his bed. So he went in and shut the door on the two of them and prayed to the Lord. He went up and lay on the child, put his face on his face, and his eyes on his eyes, and his hands on his hands. Then he bent over the child, and the child's flesh warmed. Then he got down, walked once back and forth in the house, and went up and bent over him. The boy sneezed 7 times, and the boy opened his eyes. Then Elisha called Gehazi and said, "Call the Shunammite woman." So he called her, and she came to him. Then he said, "Pick up your son." Then she came in, fell at his feet, and bowed down to the ground. Then she picked up her son and went out. So he brought her child back to life. Wow. That's an interesting story because I would think that the worst nightmare of any parent would be to lose their child. Definitely. I think that's probably why certain people have chosen not to have children because of not wanting to face that level of pain. Because I would think that would be the worst thing. I'm not a parent, so I cannot say, but I think it would be. But this is another time in the Bible where someone was brought back from the dead. It's interesting how many times in the Old Testament there have been cases of people being brought back from the dead. So here's another one. Keep that in mind. Second book of Kings, chapter 4. And there does seem to be a lot of parallels between the stories of now both Elijah and Elisha, in comparison to the story of Jesus Christ, which is in the New Testament, which we have a long ways to go before we get there. But let's continue. Elisha purifies the deadly stew. When Elisha returned to Gilgal, there was a famine in the land. The sons of the prophets were sitting before him, and he said to his servant, Put on the big cooking pot and boil some stew for the sons of the prophets. One went out into the field to gather herbs. He found a wild vine and gathered from it wild gourds, filling his clothes, and came and split them into the pot of stew. But they did not recognize them, so he poured it out for the men to eat. But as they were eating the stew, they cried out, "Man of God, there is death in the pot." They could not eat it. But he said, "Then bring flour." He threw it into the pot and said, "Pour it for the people and let them eat." And there was nothing bad in the pot. Interesting. So there was something in that food that they could taste that wasn't right, but whatever kind of flour he put into it. And again, it might not have been regular flour. Y- a lot of the terms in the Bible are metaphors for other things. So you just never know. But maybe it was regular flour. Whenever I do these page by page readings of the Bible, I do try to think to myself about things in both biblical terms, but also what could be current scientific practices or terms, and maybe things that are fringe science or things that we haven't discovered yet within the world of science. Because I think that everything in the Bible, at some point in time in the future, even if we haven't discovered it yet, will be somehow explained by science. But I don't think that we should only rely on scientific explanation. I think sometimes you should just take things that are in the Bible for as they're told. So that's kind of a conflicting perspective I have, but I guess I'm a woman full of confliction. Okay, here's the final section of the second book of Kings, chapter 4. And thank you to those of you who are listening tonight. I appreciate your company, whether you're in the chat or not. Elisha feeds 100 men. A man came from Baal Shalishah, and he brought the man of God food from the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley and fresh ears of grain in his sack. And Elisha said, "Give it to the people and let them eat." But his servant said, "How can I set this before 100 men?" He said, "Give it to the people and let them eat. For thus says the Lord, they will eat and have some left." So he set it before them, they ate, and some was left over, according to the word of the Lord. So again, we have a situation to where somehow the food is replicated in mass. It makes me think of Star Trek and the replicators. So that was a good chapter of the Bible. It actually cheered me up because I was feeling a little bit down for reasons that I touched on before I started tonight's reading. Yeah, I've been allowing myself to feel emotionally a bit more over the past few days, and I'm going to continue throughout the rest of the year. And I'm just going to be very conscientious of people being I'm going to be very conscientious of people being aware of how I feel. I really do need to make the effort only to surround myself with people who genuinely do care about my emotional state. It hasn't been quite a year yet since my father passed. And I'm still really going through it in a very intense way. I think I've dealt with delayed grief. I think so. But I'm trying to remain optimistic, trying to keep my spirits up. I feel like the spirit of my dad is permanently with me, which I highly appreciate and am very grateful for. But I am going to have to make it clear to certain people in my life that they need to be very considerate when it comes to my feelings. My mother does a great job of that. She's very, and always has been really, very in touch with how I'm feeling inside because I don't always show it. I have other family members and friends who do the same, who have really been there for me. And maybe with some new people in my life, and who maybe aren't even so new, but still, the most important thing to me is people keeping their word and following through and being on time. One of the things that mattered most to my dad was being on time. I was not always on time when I should have been, but especially toward his passing, really years before his passing, I made the conscious effort, and he was so appreciative of that, and I understand why. Being on time matters. It really does. Being a person of your word matters. Following through matters. And I understand that sometimes people go through things to where they can't, or it doesn't matter to them, but I don't have to have certain gateways open to me to where people can come through who don't value those three things: being on time, following through, and being a person of their word. So that's it for tonight. I'm going to do some music now. I wrote a song that I'm going to record this evening. I keep saying I'm going to record these songs, and then I never get around to it. But I wrote one just off the cuff. It just came to me out of nowhere today. Totally out of nowhere. And I'm going to put it to music and see how it goes. So take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Talk to y'all tomorrow.